Look closely at the two people in this footage. This is 22-year-old Leslie Palacio and 25-year-old Eric Rangel. They've just finished a late-night dinner at a local casino. They laugh, talk, and walk out into the warm Las Vegas night, unaware that this will be the last time Leslie is ever seen alive. Moments later, they leave the Longhorn Casino parking lot and head to another bar. It's a normal date night that slowly turns into something darker. By sunrise, surveillance cameras capture Eric helping a heavily intoxicated Leslie into his home. She walks inside and never comes out again. Hours later, the same camera records Eric and his father dragging a lifeless body out of the house and calmly hosing down the driveway. But here's the part that stunned everyone. Months later, the father turned himself in, while Eric vanished into Mexico, still hiding to this day. And what he told police about that night left even the detectives speechless. Leslie Palacio wasn't the kind of girl who vanished without a word. At just 22, she was on the brink of everything she had worked for. A nursing student, months away from graduation, known for her kindness and determination. Friends described her as the type of person who always checked in, who remembered birthdays, who brought comfort to others, even when she was tired herself. Her family was her world, especially her mother and sisters. They often spoke about how proud they were of her, and how excited she was to finally start her career. That's why, when Saturday came and Leslie didn't return home, something felt wrong immediately. Her mother, Arlili, and her sister, Nellie, tried calling, texting, hoping for any response. Hours passed. Nothing. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Then came the last message. A simple text that read, "I need to tell you something." No explanation followed. No reply to her sister's worried response. Just silence. At first, police told the family to wait 24 hours before filing a missing persons report, an outdated rule that still lingers in too many departments. So the Palacios waited, hearts sinking as the hours ticked by, knowing deep down that Leslie wasn't the kind of person to disappear. The sun set again, marking the start of a nightmare that would consume them all. Every missed call, every unread message, became a cruel echo of the life Leslie should have lived. A life cut short before it truly began. When Leslie agreed to go out with Eric Rangel that night, her family didn't think twice about it. Eric wasn't some stranger she had just met online. He was someone they'd known for years. Their families lived only a few blocks apart in the same Las Vegas neighborhood. He'd grown up around them, shared meals, laughed at the same gatherings. To the Palacios, Eric was safe, familiar, the kind of person any parent would trust their daughter to go out with. That trust would soon turn into their deepest regret. When Leslie failed to come home the next morning, her mother tried calling Eric's phone, hoping he could explain where Leslie had gone after their date. But he didn't answer. Neither did his father, Jose, when she called their home. The house looked quiet when they stopped by. Too quiet. The blinds were drawn, and no one came to the door. At first, the Palacios told themselves there had to be an innocent reason. Maybe Eric and Leslie had argued. Maybe she was staying with a friend. But by the second day, the silence became deafening. Then came another chilling discovery. Eric and his father had both vanished. Jose Rangel was a well-known man in the neighborhood, a churchgoer, a family man with a calm demeanor. No one could imagine he'd be running from police, let alone that he might have helped cover up a crime. But as the days passed and detectives couldn't reach either of them, suspicion began to grow. Something about their disappearance didn't feel like coincidence. It was then that police started to piece together the haunting truth. The man Leslie trusted most that night wasn't just hiding. He was hiding something far worse. By the time Eric Rangel's truck pulled into the driveway that early morning, the first hint of sunrise was just beginning to color the Las Vegas sky. It was around 5:30 a.m., and both he and Leslie were exhausted from a long night of drinking and hopping between bars. Leslie could barely walk on her own. Security footage later showed Eric helping her out of the passenger seat, his arm wrapped around her shoulders, guiding her gently toward the front door. To anyone watching, it looked like a young man taking care of a drunk date. Nothing more. She was still wearing her mask, still holding her leftovers from the casino dinner earlier that night. Eric's face was uncovered, tired, and emotionless. He opened the door and led her inside. That was the last time anyone saw Leslie Palacio alive. Inside the home, Eric's father Jose was awake in the garage, getting ready for a morning church event with his wife. He later told investigators that he heard the two come in, laughter, footsteps up the stairs, and then quiet. Minutes stretched into an hour, maybe more. Then came the sound of footsteps again, only this time Eric was alone. At around 6:30 a.m., the same camera that had captured Leslie walking into the home recorded something horrifying. Eric appeared again, this time shirtless, dragging what looked like a lifeless body wrapped in a bedsheet. His father Jose followed close behind, glancing nervously around as they struggled to lift the weight into the back of Eric's truck. The body was small, limp, unmistakably human. Once the truck was loaded, Eric drove off. Minutes later, Jose returned with a garden hose, washing the blood-stained walkway as if trying to erase what had just happened. Neighbors who saw him that morning thought nothing of it, just a man cleaning his driveway. But in truth, he was washing away the final traces of a young woman's life. That quiet suburban street, so ordinary and still under the desert dawn, had just become the scene of an unspeakable crime. And behind those closed doors, a father and son had crossed a line neither of them could ever come back from. When detectives finally entered the Rangel home, what they found stripped away any remaining hope that Leslie might still be alive. The small house looked as if someone had tried to erase a terrible secret. Blue latex gloves lay crumpled on the couch, cleaning supplies lined the dining room, and a mop bucket in the kitchen was filled with dark, stained water. Upstairs, Eric's bedroom told the rest of the story. The bedsheet was missing, the mattress stained, and his shirt, hanging neatly in the closet, was speckled with what appeared to be blood. It was clear someone had gone to great lengths to clean, but not even bleach can cover the scent of death. By then, Eric and his father Jose had vanished. Their phones were turned off, their truck gone. For detectives, the case had turned from a missing person into a homicide, and both suspects were now on the run. Local news stations flashed their faces across every screen, pleading with the public for any sighting. But while police scrambled for leads, Eric made one final, chilling move. He called an old friend from a number the man didn't recognize, a burner phone. His voice was frantic, trembling. He reminded the friend of a strange conversation they'd once had, when Eric drunkenly asked for a favor, if he ever needed help. Now, he was calling in that favor. "I need gas," he said. "I can't go anywhere. I don't want to be seen on camera." The friend, confused, asked what was going on. That's when Eric said the words that would change everything. "I killed her." At first, the friend didn't believe him, but Eric repeated it, slower this time, almost emotionless. "I killed her. She's dead. She's in the back seat of my truck right now." Panicked, the man hung up and went straight to police. But by then, Eric and Jose were long gone, heading south toward Mexico. They left behind no credit card trail, no phone pings, no witnesses. It was as if they had dissolved into the desert air. 10 days later, Leslie's body was found more than 60 miles away, in a desolate stretch near the Valley of Fire. The desert heat had ravaged her remains. Her striped top and blue jeans helped identify her, the same outfit she'd worn that night. The autopsy couldn't even determine her cause of death. For her family, the nightmare was now real. Leslie was gone. Her killers were free, and the quiet Nevada desert had become her unmarked grave. a place where innocence was buried under the weight of cruelty and silence. For months, the case went cold. There were no sightings, no phone activity, no trail to follow. Eric and his father had vanished into thin air, leaving the Palacio family with only questions and unbearable silence. Then, nearly 5 months after the murder, something unexpected happened. Jose Rangel showed up at the U.S.-Mexico border near San Diego. On January 19, 2021, border officials at the San Ysidro crossing were stunned when a tired, disheveled man approached and identified himself as Jose Rangel. The name had been plastered across wanted posters for months. He didn't run, didn't resist. He simply said he was ready to come home. Authorities arrested him immediately and notified Las Vegas Metro Police. When investigators sat across from Jose in the interrogation room, his story was calm, rehearsed, and deeply unsettling. He claimed that Leslie had overdosed inside his son's bedroom, that there had been no fight, no violence. According to him, Eric panicked, convinced no one would believe it was an accident, and begged for help. Jose said he only helped move the body so that his wife and daughters wouldn't discover the scene. He said he wasn't thinking straight, that he just wanted to protect his son. But detectives weren't buying it. The security footage, the blood evidence, the careful cleanup, it all painted a different picture. And when they confronted him with the video showing him helping Eric drag Leslie's lifeless body, his calm facade cracked. His story changed again. He admitted to helping Eric get rid of the body, but insisted he never saw any signs of violence. "I thought she'd just passed out," he said softly, staring down at the table. Jose told them that after the body was dumped, Eric became paranoid, convinced someone was after them, muttering that people were coming to kill the family. Fearing for their lives, Jose claimed he followed his son into Mexico, traveling for hours across the desert until they crossed the border. Then, somewhere along the way, Eric disappeared. "He went his own way," Jose told investigators. "I haven't seen him since." Authorities searched every possible lead in Mexico, Chihuahua, Durango, Baja California, but Eric Rangel had become a ghost. No verified sightings, no confirmed arrests, nothing. And while Jose sat behind bars awaiting his fate, Eric's empty place in the story became the most haunting part of all. A reminder that sometimes justice can stop just short of the person who deserves it most. When Jose Rangel finally faced a judge, Leslie's family believed it was the first step toward justice. They had waited months for this moment, for someone, anyone, to be held accountable for what happened to their daughter. But when the sentencing came down, disbelief rippled through the courtroom. Jose was charged only with destroying evidence and being an accessory to murder, both misdemeanors. The punishment? 2 years in jail. And because of time already served and early release programs, he would spend only about 8 more months behind bars before walking free. For Leslie's mother and sisters, it felt like a slap in the face. They had buried their daughter, endured sleepless nights, and begged for answers. And the man who helped cover up her death would soon be free. Even prosecutors couldn't hide their frustration. Chief Deputy District Attorney John Giordani publicly condemned the leniency of Nevada's laws, saying, "Dumping a young girl's body and treating her like trash should never be considered a misdemeanor." The sentence reignited outrage across Las Vegas. Community members gathered at vigils and rallies, not just to honor Leslie, but to demand change. They pointed to the outdated 24-hour waiting rule that had delayed the investigation, and to laws that treated accessory actions in a homicide as minor offenses. For many, Jose's light punishment symbolized everything wrong with the system, how bureaucracy and loopholes could cheapen the value of a young woman's life. Leslie's family refused to stay silent. They spoke to the media again and again, their voices trembling but firm. "We trusted the system to bring justice for our daughter," her mother said. Instead, it protected the people who helped destroy her. By the time Jose walked out of jail, the damage was already done. Not just to Leslie's family, but to public faith in justice itself. The law had done its part on paper, but in the eyes of the community, justice had never truly been served. For Leslie Palacios' family, time hasn't healed anything. It's only deepened the ache. Years have passed, but the emptiness left behind by her absence still hangs heavy in their home. Her mother, Arlili, still sets a place for her at family gatherings. Her sisters still post her photos online, writing messages as if she might somehow read them. Every morning begins with the same silent question. Will today be the day Eric is finally found? In televised interviews, her family's voices tremble between heartbreak and fury. Her sister Nellie once looked straight into the camera and said, "You can't hide forever. There's no way of running from this. Pay for what you did." Those words echoed across the community, a plea for justice that still hasn't been answered. Vigils continue to be held each year on the anniversary of Leslie's death. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers gather with candles, wearing shirts printed with her smile, the same one that once lit up every room she walked into. They speak not only of Leslie, but of the many women whose cases remain unresolved, victims whose stories fade as the headlines move on. The Palacio family refuses to let that happen. Their fight has become larger than one tragedy. They've spoken out about changing outdated laws, pushing for quicker police responses and tougher penalties for those who aid violent crimes. In their grief, they've become advocates, a voice for others still waiting for justice. And yet, the shadow of Eric Rangel still lingers. Reported sightings in Mexico have come and gone, but none confirmed. His name remains on wanted lists, his photo circulating through media every few months, a face that reminds everyone how incomplete this story still is. For Leslie's family, justice isn't just about punishment. It's about peace. It's about knowing that their daughter's death meant something, that the system changed because of her. Until that day comes, they'll keep speaking her name, lighting candles, and telling her story to anyone who will listen. Because for them, Leslie's story isn't over. And neither is their fight to make sure the world never forgets her.